Well, King's Tide happened. Anybody getting Amphibia vibes? Some True Colors vibes? Whatever. Just some similarities. So let's go through this episode, because it's the thing. So going into this episode, there are a lot of scary looking promos of pretty much like foreshadowing King being in a very bad situation. A lot of people thought King was gonna die. So the episode begins with King in the in-between world dream sequence with the Collector and the Beast Ball once again. And the Collector is basically talking to Belos through his little magic mirror, the round boy. The Collector is sort of doubting Belos, talking about their pinky swearing. And then before King can really get a good handle on their conversation, he wakes up from his dream and he's chilling with Willow on top of the airship. And we can see that the entire group is heading toward the head of the Titan. So the group is having, some arguments. They're fighting about a bunch of different little things. And King is sad about Luz going off to face Belos all by herself once again. And while the entire team is arguing with each other, their little palismen bring them some food, knowing that they're all exhausted and tired, so it's a cute little scene. They all grab some food and start realizing, you know what, let's put our energy toward helping people. There's even a funny scene where Amity looks pretty cold, and her dad gives her some abomination mittens, and then she's like, wait, is this why you guys called me mittens? And it's just a funny scene. We don't get an answer from Alador, but maybe that's why. I don't know. It's just pretty funny. Anyway, then we cut to Belos, and he's pretty much starting the Day of Unity. He's telling everybody, yo, it's time to rid the world of wild witches. So the Coven leaders are all walking up to their posts, and Eda is getting ready to go to her post as well. And Raine, obviously, is quite worried. Eda's just like, don't worry, Rainstorm. I can do this. The curse will do its thing. Raine is clearly worried and just said, don't tell me not to worry. Because, that's just, you can't help but worry about the people you love. And that's when Lilith comes up as well. She's very worried about Eda. And they all just, they give her a little pep talk. She even gives Hooty a little kiss. It's so adorable. Hooty is so cute in this scene, dude. Hooty's just so worried. Oh, he's adorable. And then we get one of my I don't want to say favorite scenes, but it's actually a really cool scene where Eda is getting ready to leave in her illusion Raine form, and she looks back at Raine and Lilith, and we see all the people from Hexside, everybody's younger form, which is so cool. It's really cool. And then they it just goes to Raine and Lilith alone, and they're just standing right there. I don't know, it's super cool. So when they finally head up to their positions, Belos is like, oh yeah, by the way, I swapped the positions, idiots, because I know you're onto something. So yeah, they don't know exactly what, but they knew that something was up with Raine. Terra comes right next to Raine and is like, oh, hello, Sprout, it's me, evil lady. My hair is wider than wide Putin. I don't know, her hair is really wide, though. Just look at that thing, dude. It takes up a third of the screen. It's huge. Anyway, Belos starts the Day of Unity. He starts the draining spell right here and now, and after he finishes drawing these sigils, he just says, goodbye, Boiling Isles. And then the Day of Unity, the draining spell begins, everyone starts cheering, and obviously it's not good, but no one knows, so they're all just cheering for it. Belos just kind of warps away in the middle of it and goes back to the head of the Titan, and the Collector's like, okay, good job, you did the draining spell, now free me. And he's like, nah, bro, it was all a prank. The Collector's like, oh, you pinky promised you'd use Titan's blood to save me. But Belos just says, there's only enough Titan's blood to open the portal, and I'm gonna use it to open the portal, and he literally just does just that. So the Collector is very angry. He's like, oh, but we pinky swore, and he just covers up the round boy, which hides the Collector, which is a bit interesting, I guess. Kikimora barges in with Luz, or who she thinks is Hunter, and she's like, oh, I did such a good job, Belos. Please, can I have my old job back? And Belos is like, no. Go find a hole to wither away in. You're trash. You're garbage. And it's honestly kind of sad. I mean, I don't really care that much about Kikimora, but it is kind of sad to see her working so hard, and it's just oh, go die, basically. Go die. It's sad. So, I don't know, Belos is basically betraying everybody here. I think it was pretty obvious that Belos was going to betray the Collector here. So the Collector is very angry with this, obviously, and he's like, oh, I gave you the strongest spell known to the Isles or whatever. And Belos is like, yeah, that's why I'm not releasing you, because I can't have anyone else getting that. And then he tosses the round boy down into this void, and the Collector is just like, liar, you liar, liar, pits on fire. The Collector is so funny, dude. The Collector is literally just a kid. He's just so much like a little elementary school little kiddo, except he's a god at the same time. It's weird. Oh, I forgot to mention, while Belos was talking with the Collector, he also took off his scar thing, there's like palisman thing. I don't really know how he took it off. It comes back later. It's just a little weird. I don't really know what that represents exactly. He also gets a new outfit, which is very much 1600. He's wearing the same outfit from when he got there. It's like from the 1600s. And he even looks kind of like Caleb. Or like Philip? I don't know, he looks more like Caleb, I guess, because his hair is like lighter. I don't know, but it's just like you look at him and it's like, this doesn't look like Belos, it looks more like Philip. Just the outfit is very much from that time and it's very easy to see. Anyway, regardless of that, he drops the collector and he makes his way back toward Luz, or who Kikimora thought was Hunter, but was actually Luz. And he's like, oh, human, no fight left? And she's like, nah, bro, I got fight left. So they battle it out. Luz casts like a cool fire spell, and then we cut back to the Day of Unity starting once again. We see that Hunter and Alador, their sigils are glowing, which is not good because they have sigils, while Willow, Gus, and Amity do not have sigils yet, so they don't have to worry about it. But anyway, they're getting attacked by these Coven airships, knowing that theirs is a fake. And so like a cool little battle immenses. Hunter gets saved by Willow, and we can see that Hunter's crush is sort of, I don't know, growing, or just, I don't know, it's interesting. We even get like a cool little Hunter and Flapjack moment where Flapjack tries to save Hunter, but then like Willow does instead. I don't know, it's cool. Amity uses the remote to shut down some of the Abomatrons or whatever. I don't know, it's cool. It's like a nice little fight scene, but they do eventually get shot down. And then we get back to the Coven heads, where Eda's curse has started to take effect. And we see that it's actually weakening the draining spell. The light goes from a gold to like a dim color, and it's basically making the entire thing stop working. However, since Belos switched the rearrangement, Terra found out that the draining spell was being interrupted by the fake Raine, and they used the illusionist Coven guy to reveal that Raine is actually Eda. So then Eber and Darius start fighting back, and there's like this cool battle between all the Coven heads that doesn't last very long because they're outnumbered, so they can't really do much. And the Abomatons actually found Raine and Lilith, and unfortunately they couldn't get away. They trapped the cats as well as Hooty in this bubble, and it's like, oh my gosh, Hooty, no. He looks so hurt. He looks so painful. He's like, what if he just keeps extending? He's infinite, right? What if you just keep extending? I mean, you probably can't. But like, I'm just curious, like, what if he did? Would the bubble break? Would he just like have an infinite mass in there? I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think about his biology. Anyway, Eda gets swapped for Raine, and the draining spell continues. And Eda starts saying, you're making a mistake. To which Terra just says, my only mistake was letting you live all those years ago. And when Raine is put into position, the draining spell continues even harder, and everyone starts cheering once again. And then we get back to Luz versus Belos. She's running around using her tricks, trying to beat Belos in any way, and she's pretty much powerless against him. She can't hardly do a single thing. And then he even uses his palisman goo powers. I really don't even know what to refer to this as, but he just uses his powers and grabs Luz, brings her close. And she's like, eat dirt, Belos. Just like, honestly, get him, dude. And he's just like, it's Philip. Please, call me Philip. And then we actually see him kind of being nice, sort of. I say nice, but it's like, he says, Luz, I can help you. I can send you home. You're the only other human here. I don't want to see another human life destroyed. And Luz is just like, really? You're a hypocrite, dude. After all the stuff you've done, you're barely human yourself, which was what I was saying. So when Belos finds out that Luz won't join him, he just starts petrifying her. And then Luz starts actually making a good argument, which I heard a lot of people say, where it's like, what would happen to Belos if he went to Earth now? It's been around 400 years for him since he's been back to the human realm. And Luz is basically telling him, yeah, things have changed. And that's what I was saying. If Belos goes back now, he's just going to be filmed on TikTok and called cringe all day. I also find it funny how petty he is about his title when he goes back. I think Luz is like, oh, you want to be the general of the witch, or the emperor of the witch hunters, right? And he's like, I want to be witch hunter general. And it's like, who cares? He's so petty. Like, that's just Belos, though. He's so petty. And Luz is basically telling him, yeah, no one's going to take you seriously if you start talking about this whole demon realm. And also, your fashion sense is trash. It's pretty funny. She's like, yikes, dude. And he gets mad, throws her over to the table, and she finds one of the sigil giving things. She finds like a glove that gives people a sigil. So Belos is like, oh, you want to be my modern day guide? And Lucy's like, yep, I'll do that. Let's make a deal. If you save my friends, then I'll be your guide. Except Belos is clearly quite skeptical of Luz, especially since she's kind of hiding things behind her quite obviously. But she does call him Philip, which makes him decide to accept her offer, or at least, you know, shake on her offer. And Belos, once again, is very skeptical, but she shows her other hand behind her back and is like, oh, I got nothing in my hands, Belos. Let's just shake on it. And he does, but that's when Luz and her quick thinking come through. She put an invisible glyph on top of the sigil glove and smacks him with it, giving him the Emperor's Coven sigil, now meaning that the draining spell will affect Belos too. Which is a bit weird because he doesn't really have magic. I don't know. And we see that the draining spell is pretty intense, and the Coven heads, everybody, just everybody who has a sigil is now suffering from that sigil. We can see the veins, sort of like from Hollow Mind, creeping up on these people. Even Terra, I honestly gotta say, I love this part where she's like, oh, Belos is giving us paradise, right? And Raine just looks at her and goes, no. I mean, they don't say no, but they just shake their head, so it's just like, you know. I just love it because, first off, she doesn't call them Sprout. She also finally showing her weakness, I guess. Maybe not so much weakness, but it's like, it's so good to see freaking Terra just being scared or being vulnerable. It's like, oh, frick you, Terra. Because she's been so arrogant and snooty and rude and mean, and you just hate her. And you honestly want to see her go down just as much as Belos. So it's honestly kind of cool to see her, maybe it's not rude to see her suffering, but it's just like, take that, you stupid loser. Anyway, while the draining spell is getting more and more intense, everyone tries to run away, but the Abomatons stop them, so they're trapped in this area. And then we get this really creepy thing with Belos, where it's like the lighting around him just looks so freaky, because he's got, you know, he's like evil. He's got so much. He's so messed up, dude. He's so messed up. He's got a sigil. He's got things carved into his arms that aren't really there anymore. I don't know. He's just a freaky looking guy. So Luz is pleading with Belos, saying, stop the draining spell right now, or else it's going to affect you too. And Belos has worked too hard for this. He has worked far too hard. He's not giving up now. So he transforms into the Palisman monster, which we saw from Hollow Mind. We then cut to some really fast cuts, honestly. It goes really fast. It's from the perspective of King, where he's like, I don't know, very lightheaded or something. It's kind of hard to tell, but we see some really nice scenes where Hunter is helping out Willow, Alador is helping out Amity, and trying to protect her while they're being drained. I don't know, it's really interesting. And then Gus is like, oh, King, let me help you. And they make their way toward the Coven heads, and they try and help out Eda and everybody else. And then after that, they make their way toward the head. It all happens so fast. And Luz is running around trying to not get killed by freaking Palisman Belos. I don't even know what to call this thing. It's still so freaky. He even like nearly destroys the door by accident. And she's like, yo, not the door, dude, not the door. So she lures him to the other side of the room and starts running away. And before he can land a good hit on her, they made it just in time. The group has made it just in time. We can even see a crack on King's skull, which doesn't look super cool. But it's cool that the group has finally reunited. Very, very nice. Willow's honestly like trapping Belos for a bit. You know, she's holding him down. Belos is trying to escape, and they're all using their powers to like hold him back down and defend themselves. It's pretty cool, honestly. While this is happening, King was put off to the side by Gus to try and keep him safe, but he falls down some stairs and finds Kikimora, where Belos sort of shoved Kikimora out of the room. She ended up down here, and she starts saying to King, the Emperor cannot stop this draining spell, only the Collector has that power. And he's like, who's the Collector? And she's like, I always heard the Emperor talking to the Collector while they were alone. So it's like she basically just spied on the freaking Emperor like all the time. And King's like, oh, an opportunity. Can you take me to the Collector? And she's like, if it means kicking the Emperor's butt, then yes. And this is honestly a pretty cool scene. Gus uses his powers using the little mirror thing that he stole from the Coven leader. And he's like, all right, Belos, time to calm down. And he gives Belos his worst memories, or like makes him relive his worst memories. And we see the paintings from Hollow Mind flash in his eyes. I think that's such a cool scene because Belos does think of those as his worst memories. So it's like he knows those are his worst crimes, but it's also his worst memories too, and he starts freaking out about that. And just, this scene was so creepy. He flies over to Hunter and he's like, oh, Hunter, what are you doing? I only wanted to help you. And it's like, he sounds so desperate, and it's honestly really freaky, dude. This scene is so creepy, and you can just see the terror on Hunter's face, and he's like, you're lying. And I think Belos probably would have continued trying to convince him, but he sees that Hunter has a palisman, and he just yells, "Kill him!" Which is like, oh gosh, ugh. I don't know if it's because the theory that Flapjack used to be Caleb, aka Belos' brother's palisman, which is the whole theory going on. It might be. We don't know. But either way, if nothing else, Hunter had a palisman and didn't tell Belos, and he's just like, that's it, kill him. Freaking kill him. And oh gosh, that was freaky. I don't know why he's saying kill him specifically. It's like, why are you telling yourself to kill him? Or is it just like an order you're giving to the palisman? I don't know why he says just kill him. He should have just said die. Either way, it's freaky. He's trying to kill Hunter. We then cut back to King at the very bottom of this area, and he sees all the failed Golden Guard masks. And Kikimora seems to know about this already. He's like, what are all these? And she's like, oh, this is where the failures end up. And it's like, you knew? You knew about this, Kikimora? I don't know. It's weird. Why would you want to be the Golden Guard? You just end up like this. Whatever. Either way, she's not even a freaking Grimwalker, so she couldn't be. Regardless, King finds the round boy, touches it, and the collector finally comes on out. So they've been connected for quite a few episodes, and now they finally get to meet. And honestly, it's kind of fun. The collector's mad about being betrayed by Belos, and King doesn't really know what's happening. It's really weird because the collector can't see him. I imagine it's due to the fact that I think that little medallion thing was something that King's dad gave to him so that the collector could not find King. The collector is, in with the Titan hunters, but we don't know if he actually wants to kill him. I don't know. It's really hard knowing what the collector's true motivations are. But anyway, the collector knows. He kind of like, after sees King, he knows that he's the son of the Boiling Isles. And he's like, oh, you look like the bully who put me here. So we know that the Titan did put him there. And he's like, oh, I've always wanted to play with you, but your dumb pops hid you. Hey, do you want to play hide and seek? And it's just like, he's just being a kid, very much like the collector. And King's like, no, we need to stop this draining spell. Can you please stop it? And he's like, what? Nah, dude, that's boring. I want to play. So then King is kind of quick on his feet, starts thinking, and he's like, oh, let's play the Owl House. Okay, sure, call the game after the name of the show. So basically, the collector's interested, is like, ooh, well, okay, that sounds fun. What do you want to, how do we play? And King's like, oh, it's so fun, but we need like a whole island of players to actually play the game. So if you stop the draining spell, we'll be able to play the Owl House. And if everyone's dead, we're not going to be able to play the game, so that's no good. And the collector's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, if you're a Titan, you can let me out. I can stop the spell and we can play together. But the collector also is a bit skeptical, being like, oh, are you just trying to trick me? Kind of like what Philip did. I find it interesting that he calls him Philip. I don't know. They're probably because Belos wanted him to call him Philip. I don't know. Whatever. So King's like, oh, I pinky swear, which is a bit interesting. They're going for the pinky swears once again. So the collector goes over to his little round boy thing and says, hey, just follow my lead, with a very mischievous smile on his face. And he's got his pinky out, and they touch their pinkies. Sort of pinkies. King doesn't really have pinkies, but whatever. They touch their pinkies together, and we see the hand coming out of the round boy. And then this is when I was like, oh, it's time. It's time for the new character from the art stream, who everyone thought was Collector Luz. It is not. We see the round boy getting closer and closer to cracking. Then we cut back to Eda and Raine, and Raine is not looking too good at all. Neither is Eda. Her curse is starting to take over. And before it does, Raine grabs her arm and tells her, I promised a special kid that I'd protect you, and just rips off her arm, which stops the curse. And also, because we know Eda can take her limbs off and on, I don't know if it's permanent. We'll have to see. I imagine that it's not. I'm not sure why she didn't just do it herself. Maybe she couldn't. Either way, Raine does it for her, and the spell seems to get even more and more intense. And then we cut back to the round boy, and it shatters. It just completely breaks. When we get back to Belos and the group, Belos has cornered the group, goes for a final strike, but is stopped so simply by the collector. In their human form? Honestly, they look so funny. They look so funny. I love the human collector. They're not on screen for very long, but I love what screen time they have. He comes over and is like, oh, what you playing? And Belos is like, oh, Collector? You're free, just as promised, ha ha ha. I meant to do that, yeah. Collector's like, yeah, I don't know about that. You threw me off a bridge. Yeah. Do you want to play tag? Let's play tag. I'm it. And he just throws Belos up against the freaking door, and he just splatters into goo. Like, he's just goo now. He's just 100% goo. He literally just destroyed him in a hit. And it's like, okay, sure. All right, then. And the Collector just starts laughing. Haha, too slow. And he's like, oh, you guys look too slow as well. But before the Collector can do anything to them, King comes up and he's like, oh, remember what we talked about, buddy? You gotta help all the people outside too, or else we can't play the Owl House. And everyone starts sort of playing along, and they're like, oh yeah, the Owl House. Yeah, that's my favorite game. Sure is a fun game, yeah. So the Collector's like, oh, okay. Takes a look outside, and he's like, oh yeah, that's, all right, I can deal with that. And it's so funny because it's so simple. He just looks up at the sun and moon, and he's like, okay. Boop. He just like grabs the moon and just like, it's like a click and drag. He just clicks and drags the moon over and just immediately stops the spell. It's so funny. It's like, what? You can just do that? I mean, I guess you're like kind of the god of this world. I think Kikimora said he was the child of the stars, whatever that means. We still don't know that much about the Collector and what the Collector's true purpose / motivation is, besides chaos. We, again, don't really know. Regardless, it does stop the draining spell, and then everyone seems to be sort of okay. And the Collector's like, oh, okay, well, if we're going to play the Owl House, we're going to need an Owl House. And then just starts destroying everything. It's a little weird. He just, like, starts taking rocks and starts forming them toward him. It's a little weird, honestly. We don't exactly know what's happening at this point. He just says, we need an Owl House, and then just destroys things. I was like, if you want an Owl House, let's just go grab Hooty, dude. I don't know. It's weird. So the group clearly is very terrified of what the heck is happening. No one knows what's going on, or whatever the Collector is doing, no one knows what's happening. So because of this, they see the door to the human realm and figure that that is their only way out. But Luz doesn't want to go. She's like, everyone, Eda, I can't leave them all behind. To which Amity convinces her to head toward the human realm. It's really interesting. It's like a very intense moment. Even Hunter, before he comes up to the door, he sees the pile of goo that Belos is dripping down from, and he's clearly very uncomfortable to cross it and just step on him, because stepping on him means that he's like, you know, finally done with him. I don't know, it's like a very physical thing where it's like you step on him, now you're done with him. And he's mostly just running across him, but still. It takes him a few seconds, but Gus and Willow are able to convince him, and while he does run across him, a drop falls onto him and like slithers down his back. I imagine that's going to come back later. I don't know how, but it's probably going to be very bad. So the group run up toward the human door, and Hunter opens the door, and it just starts storming. We see that it's raining outside, and Gus is like, oh, it's human rain. It's okay. It's not actually boiling rain. It's fine. And once everybody but Amity enters through the door, Luz has not gone through. She hasn't gone through. She's holding the door together because it's pretty much falling apart at this point. She's holding it together with her vine spells, and she's like, I can't. I have to go back for Eda. We'll find a way back to you. I can't leave her. But the Collector takes notice of this and sees King on Luz's back and is like, hey, King, you pinky swore you'd promised you would play with me. And then starts pulling King toward him with his powers. And so Luz is like in between King, and it's really sad where she's holding on to King while also trying to keep the portal intact so that everybody can go through. And then this is where the most emotional moment of the episode happens, where Luz is caught in between. She's holding on to King, and she's like, we have to stick together, buddy. We have to stick together. And King just goes, not this time, but I can protect you. And I felt like, it's because she's saying we have to stick together. You know, us weirdos have to stick together. We gotta keep our group together. And then when King says, no, not this time, but I can protect you, it sort of echoes Eda from earlier, where Eda was trying to protect her. It's very sweet. And then King says, I'm so happy to have you as my big sister, and just goes, wah, and flies off, using the sound to propel him backward, which also sends Luz, Amity, and everybody else flying straight through the portal into the human realm. And when they try and reopen the door, it's just the regular house. and they're back in the human realm. Gus starts crying, and then we cut toward Camila along with V. She's cooking up some dinner, and in the bottom right we actually see Girl Lost in Frogland hoax. It's Anne. It's Anne Boonchoy from Amphibia. It's like, what the frick? You have Anne there? What the heck? I don't know if this like is supposed to line up at the same time. I'm not sure, because it's like Girl Lost in Frogland. How would anyone know she's lost in a Frogland until she already came back? Regardless, she hears a knock at the door, comes on over, and opens it up to find that Luce, Amity, Willow, Gus, and Hunter are outside in the rain, and all she says is, "Hey Mom, I'm back," and then it ends. The credits are just simple rain while looking at the house that is like the portal house door, whatever. It's at that old abandoned house, and we're just looking from the inside to the rain coming down. And that's it. That's King's Tide. We're gonna have to wait a while to find out what happens, but yeah, more than one Amphibia sort of feeling in this, where at the end of Season 2 of Amphibia, spoilers for those who don't know, Anne and the Planters get stuck on Earth at the end of Season 2. The exact same thing happened here. So these shows are literally sister shows, with their Season 2s being, or at least their Season 2 finales, having the characters end up back on Earth. It's very interesting. So I'm very curious to see how this will all happen. And V's there too. V is also there. I know we have to remember that V is there. But yeah, this episode is pretty crazy. Is it weird to say, despite how much happened, there wasn't anything crazy, unpredictable that happened? Like, I feel like everything that happened was sort of foreshadowed, or at least you felt like it was going to happen. And, you know, we knew that Luce was going to confront Belos. We knew that Belos was going to turn into his creepy form. We knew that Belos was probably going to betray the Collector. We knew that the Collector was going to have some sort of human form because of the art stream. So it's like everything that we saw was sort of already revealed to us. It almost makes you wish Dana never drew that new character. I feel like I would have been more surprised had I not seen it. But then again, drawing that little half-faced character also made it also hyped up the entire thing so much. So I don't really know how, what to think. It felt like I wasn't surprised at all, to my knowledge. I don't know. I feel like I wasn't that surprised. More just like, yeah, this is really good stuff. You know? Like, True Colors, for Amphibia at least, if we're comparing the two, True Colors surprised me a lot. And that was foreshadowed, but very subtly. This wasn't as surprising, but more just like, I want to see more. I want to see the next episode now. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so invested. What are they? They're on Earth now. They can't do anything to make it back. Someone from the Boiling Isles is going to have to make their way, or make another portal to the human realm. And we don't know how that's going to happen. We don't even know what the Collector is doing at the Boiling Isles. I imagine the Owl House is now going to have a double meaning as well, because the Collector is creating their own version of the Owl House, whatever the Owl House is, because he's like, oh, we need to create an Owl House to play the Owl House, which I don't know why he thinks we need an Owl House when King never even told him that we needed one or not, because he never explained the rules. Regardless, he thinks he needs an Owl House, so he's creating an Owl House, and despite there already being an Owl House in the Owl House, there's now a second Owl House, meaning that the Owl House has a double meaning. I said Owl House way too much in that sentence, and now it doesn't feel like it means anything. But it's gonna have some deeper meaning, whatever that is. Regardless though, I'm super excited. Let me know your thoughts. I'm probably gonna talk more about this episode in a future video, so stay tuned for that. I just wanted to cover my initial thoughts and reactions to this episode. So once again, let me know your thoughts. This is really good. This is really good, and I can't wait to see how the Season 3 specials are gonna continue with the rest of the story. Alright, that'll be it for me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.